Season 4 is upon us, and if you've been keeping up to date, sorcerers have gotten an absolutely ridiculous build this season in the shape of Frozen Orb. Most guides, however, cover the endgame version, which requires tons of RNG drops, including uniques, but I'm glad to tell you that the leveling version of Frozen Orb is also super powerful right from the get-go, so you can use it to level 1 to 50 extremely efficiently and have a ton of fun with it, instead of running Chain Lightning again for the 100th time. This Frozen Orb build is perhaps one of the best AoE builds in the game, allowing you to spam multiple Frozen Orbs from a single cast. I've also managed to optimize this build so it's extremely mana efficient from very early on, so you're not standing around using your basic skill too often. The best thing is that this build requires no specific drops, just a few aspects that can be obtained from the codex, so it doesn't require any RNG to achieve maximum power, which is super important whilst leveling. So let's go over the core gameplay loop of the build. So at the start of your engagement, you want to start by spamming your main ability, Frozen Orb. Frozen Orb travels in a straight line, hitting an enemy multiple times, chilling them, thereby applying a crowd control, and then it detonates afterwards. Thanks to our Frozen Orb enchantment, we have a 30% chance to cast a free Frozen Orb whenever we use a non-basic skill, which actually includes Frozen Orb itself. We can also cast an additional Frozen Orb through our gear, which I'll go over a little bit later. What this all results in is that you can fire 3 Frozen Orbs from a single cast. We then use a combination of 2 aspects which are gettable from dungeons to get our mana back quickly. Aspect of the Umbral gives us back mana each time we crowd control an enemy, and in this build we freeze enemies, we slow them down with chill, so most things are going to give you back mana. Aspect of the Prodigy we also have, whereby whenever we use a cooldown we regain a chunk of mana on top. So now we can pop our cooldowns such as Frost Nova, which instantly provides a ton of mana through both the aspects. Similarly, we can cycle through our other abilities such as Ice Armor and Teleport on top to manage our mana. Our ultimate ability, Deep Freeze, in combination with Supreme Deep Freeze, allows us to reset all of our cooldowns when we use it. Deep Freeze can also be used in panic moments to stop your character from dying, but most of the time you're going to be using it to manage your cooldowns, which in turn are going to give you back more mana. Remember guys, you can cancel Deep Freeze early and you'll still reset your cooldowns. You don't have to sit there for the entire duration. Our key passive, Avalanche, gives us a 10% chance on a lucky hit to have a free cast of Frozen Orb with 45% increased damage. This chance is actually doubled against vulnerable enemies, which our Frozen Orb actually applies. And remember, anytime you cast Frozen Orb, it has a chance to cast 2 further Frozen Orbs. And then we use our offensive aspects, such as Aspect of Control, to scale our damage even more against frozen enemies. There is one aspect which is a random drop, which does elevate this build to S tier, and that's Aspect of Frozen Orbit. What this does is it makes Frozen Orb explode an additional 2 times afterwards for 90 to 120% of its damage. Don't worry though, this aspect is not required at all for the purposes of this leveling build. I didn't get it myself until the late level 40s and I was still blasting through enemies, so if you do get it to drop, it is a nice bonus, so do keep an eye out for it. Let's go over our skill tree. So to start with, you want to put 1 point into Frostbolt and 1 point into Enhanced Frostbolt. This is our basic skill which we're going to use when we run out of mana, but we want to minimize using it. Then put 1 point into Frozen Orb, 1 point into Enhanced Frozen Orb, which increases its damage quite a lot when you're near full health, and then 1 point into Greater Frozen Orb, which is going to apply vulnerable to enemies. Add in 1 more point to Frozen Orb so you can unlock the next section of the skill tree. We'll eventually go back and make Frozen Orb 5 out of 5, but the initial priority is to unlock new skills to make leveling more fun. Now we get our defensive cooldowns, which are going to help us survive. Put 1 point into Teleport and 1 point into Enhanced and Shimmering Teleport for that sweet 30% damage reduction. Then put 1 point into Ice Armor and 1 point into Enhanced Ice Armor and Shimmering Ice Armor. Put 1 point into Frost Nova and 1 point into Enhanced Frost Nova to reduce its cooldown when we kill frozen enemies. Around about here, you should be close to level 15 if you don't have Renown, so unlock Fireball, which is not going to be on our casting bar, but instead is going to be our first enchantment. Fireball enchantment causes explosions whenever you kill an enemy, which is seriously going to improve the AoE of the build. Now go back and max out Frozen Orb to 5 out of 5. Then put 3 points into Glass Cannon and 3 points into Precision Magic for that all-important lucky hit chance. At this point, you should have unlocked your ultimate ability, so get Deep Freeze along with Prime and Supreme Deep Freeze. Put 1 point into Permafrost so you can put 3 points into Hoarfrost and 3 points into Icy Touch to really boost your damage. Around this time, you should have unlocked your key passive Avalanche, which is going to give you free casts of Frozen Orb based on lucky hit. Go back and max out Permafrost and Frigid Breeze afterwards. Next, go back and put 1 point into Elemental Attunement so you can sometimes randomly reset your defensive cooldowns. Put 1 point into Devastation so you can put 3 points into Elemental Dominance. Put 1 point into Align the Elements so you can max out Mana Shield and max out Protection for maximum survivability. Then put 1 point into Icy Veil so you can put 3 points into Snap Freeze. You should have 2 points left, so go back and put them into Teleport to reduce its cooldown. In terms of enchantments, our 2 enchantments are Fireball and Frozen Orb. Get Fireball first as it will seriously help your AoE potential whilst leveling. In terms of aspects, we've talked about our 2 key aspects for mana regeneration, Umbral Aspect and Aspect of the Prodigy, which I've placed on our rings. Offensive aspects from the Codex which are good include Elementalist Aspect, which boosts Frozen Orb's critical strike chance when cast from full mana. We also have Aspect of Control, which boosts damage against frozen enemies. If you don't have Aspect of Frozen Orbit, then use the Conceited Aspect for improved damage against enemies when you have a barrier active, and Edgemaster's Aspect for more damage based on the amount of mana you have. Remember, aspects are now permanently unlocked in your codex, even those from drops, as long as you salvage them. So once you get that first Frozen Orbit aspect, you should be sorted for the rest of the game. In terms of defensive aspects, you don't need many if I'm being perfectly honest. You could use Aspect of Disobedience, which is a safe bet which improves armor and survivability. In terms of gear, I highly recommend tempering any decent drops whilst leveling because tempering is so cheap and provides very powerful affixes. Whilst leveling, you should get a drop for a tempering recipe for frost skills. They aren't that rare. You want to apply this to your two-handed weapon or both your one-hand and your off-hand weapon to get the affix whereby you have a chance to cast Frozen Orb twice. It is super important to apply this to your weapons because you can't apply this elsewhere, such as your gloves or ring. If at the time of watching this video you don't have the recipe yet, or you want to know what to apply to your gloves, rings and amulet, just aim for increased damage, which is universally good for all builds. If you're struggling with the capstone dungeons or higher tier hell tides, then try and temper some resistances on your armor. Whilst leveling, you shouldn't have a preference between a one-handed weapon with a focus or a two-handed weapon. Just use whichever has the highest DPS value. For gems, again, I don't recommend it whilst leveling, but you can apply rubies to your armor for more life and emeralds to your weapons for more critical strike damage. The fastest way to level is now to just run hell tides from 1 to 50 and then to try and push the capstone dungeons early so you get the higher XP boost from those higher tiers. So there you have it, my Frozen Orb Sorcerer leveling build that is an absolute powerhouse for level 1 to 50, and I will bring you a complete version once I reach level 100, which will include the full Paragon board and so on and so forth. If you liked what I talked about today, remember to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel for more Diablo builds as we get deeper into Season 4. I'm Mr. Ronit, and that's it for today. Peace out, guys.